Many people get their groceries with food stamps, about 37,000 families in Milwaukee County alone. But that food won't be available unless they respond to this blue letter from the state.
The blue letter means take action. The blue letter means that you've got an appointment to pick up your Quest card and that you should keep that appointment.
You'll get that new Quest card if you keep that appointment. While the old paper food stamps are being eliminated, they will continue to be valid, but no more will be issued after October.
There are a lot of states around the country that have already gone to an electronic benefit card for food stamps. And Wisconsin is one of the last states that is actually going through that transformation.
Community advocate agencies like the Hunger Task Force are a big part of the transition.
Our role all along within this process is to advocate for low-income clients, to make sure that this process treats them fairly, to make sure that that they are aware of the Quest card, aware that this transformation is coming. Basically, any place where low-income people congregate or get emergency food or get any kind of emergency services, we're there with our outreach flyer, trying to let them know that this change is coming.
Those contacts have included emphasis on that blue letter.
There are three basic pieces of information on here that are critical for the clients to know about with regard to the Quest card. At the top of the letter, it indicates the client's name and address and case number. It also indicates the date, the time, and the location of a training that the client must attend to pick up their Quest card. And that's a very, very critical piece of information. If the clients do not attend that training, they will not be able to get their Quest card, and subsequently they will not be able to access their benefits if they don't have their card.
And the third point is, bring a picture ID with the letter to your appointment or you won't get in.
I will need for you to fill this out for me. Once you're done filling this out, sir, I will need for you to take your blue appointment letter and a photo ID, and you will step right there to the check-in window, and someone will be glad to assist you.
It's about a 45-minute process, and what happens is you will check in at the reception booth. You will then be directed to a video viewing room where you will see a video that explains how the card works, what to do if you have questions. All of these things are in the video. After you've seen the video, you'll then go to a card activation and PIN selection process, which means you will take your card and you'll actually swipe it through a device and select a PIN, and it will be a PIN number, a personal identification number that is easy for the user to remember. Once you've selected the PIN, if you would like to, there's a demonstration device just like the ones you're going to see in the grocery store that you can try to use the card. It will print a receipt to show you where your balance is, and that's the end of the process. Now, we realize that some people may be working at the time that their appointment was scheduled. And if that's the case, there is a number on that blue letter. It's 289-6333, and all you need to do is call that number, and they will reschedule an appointment for you immediately.
Milwaukee County is introducing the new Quest card over a 3-month period ending in October. People who should have come in during August can still take part.
What they should do is call that number, 289-6333, and make an appointment to come in and pick up the card.
The location will be the one where the food stamp recipient has picked up food stamps in the past. Officials say the new electronic card will reduce paperwork and fraud and be safer.
Paper coupons are negotiable. They're like money. If you lose the paper food stamp coupons, it's losing $10. It's like losing actual cash. With the card, if you lose the card, you can call the customer service number that's on the that will be provided to you, and it will stop any further transactions, just like a credit card. If you report it lost or stolen, it will stop further transactions.
Since the Quest card is used like a credit or debit card, it's also expected to eliminate the embarrassment felt by many when using paper food stamps.
I did have one lady very early on in the process that related to the stigma, and so it was an elderly lady who had never received any assistance, and she related to me that her husband passed away, and when he passed away, she needed to apply for food stamps. But she used to go grocery shopping at 1 o'clock in the morning so that her neighbors wouldn't see her using paper food coupons. So it was a real boon to her to be able to use the Quest card, and she really enjoyed using it.
Food pantries report that many recipients supplement food stamps there. Since that could further deplete pantry food supplies, it's a major concern.
We know from talking to clients at our food pantries that most of them are working, and a lot of them have children. And so these are low-income working families that are just trying to make it on a very minimal budget. If people lose access to their food stamp benefits, they're going to come to us, and they're going to come to our food pantries and our meal programs, and we're going to be inundated with requests for emergency food. And of course, that is a huge concern to us. Our biggest fear is that people, for some reason, will not get their Quest card. Because the bottom line is if you do not have your Quest card, you do not have access to food stamp benefits. People have to go to their trainings. We can't reiterate that enough.
We're a department of the Wisconsin Humane Society, and our goal is to number one, to help people interact in a humane way with wildlife in our community, and also provide wildlife rehabilitation services to the animals and the people of our community.
As many as 5,000 sick, orphaned, or injured animals are brought here every year. Many are native. Some, like this turtle, are not. It may have escaped or was released. This soft-shell turtle is an unusual find, but it is found in our area. A baby chicken was found wandering in the city, even though there is a law against raising poultry.
Well, thanks to the wonderful about 150 volunteers we have here and our staff, we have a wild animal hospital here. And while there's no charge for our services, we won't say, well, it's $20 to take care of this bird if somebody brings in. We're not tax funded, so it's a community-based organization where people donate the money to enable us to function and so on. But what we'll do is we'll do everything we possibly can to give it humane care. And if right now in this facility, we've got probably 30 orphaned baby raccoons, maybe even 40, and we've got probably 24 sick or injured gulls. We have an injured red-tailed hawk in here right now with some what we call an internal fracture, which is some of his shoulder structure is broken. So just about any native creature that comes in, we'll do our best to get them boosted up, rehabilitated, and back out again.
In 1999, the Wildlife Department admitted over 4,300 animals from Milwaukee County, 91 species of birds, 22 varieties of mammals, 8 kinds of reptiles and amphibians. You can view videos at the center showing examples of the staff and its activities.
This hawk was found outside of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. It was wet, thin, and too weak to fly. One of the judges called the wildlife staff about the bird, and it was rescued. It was treated for internal parasites, fed, exercised, and eventually released.
They're bottle fed in our nursery until they're weaned and able to be moved to outdoor cages for exercise. The raccoons are introduced to foods they're likely to find in the wild. When they're about 16 weeks old, they're released into a raccoon habitat outside of the city.
Education is a high priority at the Rehabilitation Center, teaching people what to do when they encounter wild animals.
We'd like them to call us first so we can help them figure out whether this animal really does need help or not. Because a common thing is we have people that bring us baby animals and birds that aren't really orphaned. They find the animal and they think, wow, I don't see a parent around. You know, there's baby birds out in the yard and there's no parent taking care of it. So they scoop it right up, bring it in, and in actuality, the parent bird is out trying to find food. And another one is baby cottontails, and cottontail rabbits nest in such a way that mom doesn't spend all day with the baby. She kind of goes off and hides someplace, goes about her business and feeds and so on, and the babies are secure in their nest, and she only comes back at night to take care of them, to feed them.
Since homes can be hazardous to wildlife and wildlife can be damaging to homes, the department has help in that area as well.
Over the years, we've had so many thousands of calls about concerns about what we call nuisance situations, conflicts with wildlife, that we've created what we call our animal house, and we have people can come down and walk around it and in it, and it shows them how they can prevent some of these problems. Some of the most common things are animals getting into chimneys. So our advice is cap the chimney, get that chimney capped, and that'll prevent animals from getting in. You know, there's some, unlike raccoons, raccoons can usually get out of a chimney once they get in it, but there's birds get in there and squirrels that can't climb out. Birds hitting windows, colliding with windows, not aware that it's a risk, and seeing a reflection of the landscape and flying into the window and becoming injured that way. Those are a couple of the top ones.
One person I was thinking about in particular, I was just trying to find it, who takes care of bees.
The Wildlife Department also handles thousands of phone calls for information or to respond to calls for help.
I was wondering if, after you were done with work today, you might be able to check out and do a rescue for us. Well, it's an injured rabbit.
We've had a couple of calls about raccoon in the dumpster. Raccoon's gotten into the dumpster, and how do I go about getting this thing out? They're curious about what to do. We had a call about a sick skunk today. They're calling about, a bat got in the house, or a bird hit my window and it's laying on the ground injured, or I saw a gull get hit by a car. What should I do? So all of these questions, Steve, backed up by our admissions staff, is working on answering these questions for people.
If you have questions about wildlife or would like to volunteer in some way, you can contact the Wildlife Department of the Humane Society at 414-ANIMALS and help local wildlife and yourself.
And we're trying to get them to make a little space for wildlife, and by understanding how wildlife functions and what their behaviors are, and with us trying to help people decipher what those behaviors are they dangerous or not, and generally not, but we're trying to help people coexist in a humane manner with the wildlife in our backyards, essentially.
This poster illustrates the French Gothic Jésus Church, dedicated in 1894. It had its origins in the merger of two even older Catholic parishes operated by the Jesuits, who were brought here with the intention of starting a college.
And Milwaukee was really, very much of a dusty cow town at that, a real frontier village, and the idea of having a college was perhaps more visionary than an application of reality. Bishop Henny had already received a donation from a Belgian businessman, $16,000, and he had bought land by the time the Jesuits arrived in the 1850s between 10th and 11th on the north side of State Street.
I-43 and the new state probation and parole facility now occupy the land, but in 1881 that real estate housed Marquette College, named after the Jesuit missionary and explorer. Its location on a small hill gave the school its original nickname, the Hilltoppers. 25 years later, Johnston Hall is built next to Jésus, as the college outgrows both its building and curriculum.
Marquette College was a nice liberal arts school, but when it moves to Johnston Hall, not only do we move from state to a footprint on the present campus, but really that same year is perhaps one of the most significant transitions that the university experiences. It actually moves from a college to a university because we become affiliated with the Milwaukee Medical College.
From 1906 to 1913, Marquette adds a second medical school, schools of engineering, English, law, speech, journalism, and music, transforming its mission, character, and diversity.
Marquette, I found out, is the first coeducational Catholic institution of higher education in the United States.
The Marquette neighborhood began as a community for the wealthy, with some of Milwaukee's most prominent families lining the present Wisconsin Avenue. Their mansions gave the street a new name, Grand Avenue.
You had just an incredible series of estates that were built up. This truly was a grand avenue. They didn't even let the streetcar run down it. It turned at 11th Street and went up on Wells, and that was the service street. They weren't going to have anything but nice carriages and horse-drawn carriages coming up the street.
Most of the mansions are gone. The Plankinton Mansion at 15th and Wisconsin was one of the last to disappear in 1980. On that site today, the Alumni Memorial Union. The addition of new dormitories in the 1950s had expanded the campus north of the avenue. In 1968, the freeway set the eastern boundary of the university in concrete. The Marquette interchange buried what was left of the Torrey Hill Irish community, and the university continued to change.
The urban renewal days, the heyday of that in the mid to late 60s, was when the Marquette campus really began to come together as a campus. Like most urban schools, we grew up sort of in pockets here and there, a building on this corner and another one a couple of blocks away and another one around the corner from that. And it was in the urban renewal period of the 60s that those individual buildings began slowly to be knit together more into a real campus.
The neighborhood around Marquette also changed, beginning with an urban renewal plan approved by the city in the mid-1960s. Marquette worked with the city and Avenues West Association to help stabilize the area.
We were in a situation in the late 80s where we really felt that some dramatic steps had to be taken to help stabilize and turn around the neighborhood. And the university stepped up in a big way. We ultimately invested in the neighborhood of $50 million over the course of several years in that effort. After several years' work, we got to a point where we had hoped we would get, which was where the neighborhood had really been sort of stabilized and some real revitalization was going on.
The private sector bought back most of the properties from the university with one major exception, the project called Campus Town at 16th and Wells.
There's a couple of large red brick buildings there, which are all apartments entirely at this point rented by students on the upper floors, and then commercial activity businesses on the ground floors. And that is actually the one piece of the whole project that is still owned by and operated by the university, simply because of its proximity to campus. I mean, it's right smack next door to the main campus, and its importance in the student housing, off-campus student housing mix. Right from the outset, we knew we didn't want to be in the neighborhood revitalization and property management business forever. It's not what we do. I mean, we're an educational institution. What we hoped was that by making a fairly large effort over a limited number of years, we could help sort of provide the critical mass that would get other neighborhood revitalization efforts going as well. And ultimately that proved to work, in part because of what we did through Campus Circle. Other things went on. The Blood Center was right up the street from us on Wisconsin Avenue, remained in the neighborhood and expanded their operations. Sinai Samaritan, immediately to our north, has built a couple of major new facilities in the last couple of years, just north of our campus. And other private landlords have because they saw what we were doing, I think they felt the confidence to invest some of their own funds in rehabbing and properties that they owned in the neighborhood.
The revitalization has been good for the neighborhood and the university. Marquette's enrollment stabilized. There are about 1,700 new freshmen again this year. Total enrollment is about 10,600. Marquette students and graduates play a role in every phase of city life. Services like the dental clinic serve thousands, many from the campus neighborhood. It shares the qualities of a busy downtown and a residential area, and the university sees good things for the neighborhood that bears its name.
Changes coming up in the next couple of years. We've got several pretty significant building projects on the drawing boards. A new library, which will be right here on Wisconsin Avenue, right in the middle of campus. New dental school, which we're actually going to break ground for this fall in October, also on the avenue between 18th and 19th. We just completed a $17 million top to bottom renovation of East Hall, which has now made it the most popular residence hall on campus. So we've got a number of projects in the works the next couple of years that'll keep us growing and healthy and hopefully a contributing part of this neighborhood.
Develop strategies to reduce crime by half, by 50%. It's an ambitious goal, but the law-abiding citizens of Milwaukee deserve nothing less. And I want the Commission to focus on violent crime, homicides rates, getting guns and drugs off the streets, cooperation with parole and probation agents to keep better tabs on offenders, and an examination of alcohol and drug treatment, domestic abuse programs to stem the tide of domestic violence in our community.
In his inaugural address, the mayor named Robert Woody Welch, a member of the Fire and Police Commission, and the Reverend Roy Neighbors as co-chairs of the Crime Commission. From the start, Commissioner said public support would be essential if the crime reduction goals are to be achieved. At public hearings, they asked for positive suggestions, not complaints. They got both.
I see a lot of things going on in our community. Kids always killing other kids. Violence going on everywhere. There is no one to stop it, and we need grown-ups to help us.
So is there anything going to be done for some serious economic development within our cities, or are we just going to ask questions and send more police out? That's my question.
The police out there, they're doing their job to a point, but they need to be a little more understanding, because some police out there, they harass people.
We want the police department to come out and enforce the laws that are on the books, to listen to us. It's as simple as that.
I would suggest that there be more bike patrols, foot patrols. This makes the officers more accessible to the citizens and able to get to know people in the neighborhood.
We need more police presence. We need to see the police in and the police cars in our neighborhood. We need police who have a neighborhood strategy, a plan for the neighborhood they work in, and who will work with the neighborhood leaders and talk to the neighborhood agencies.
6 public hearings were held in June, 1 in each police district. Commission members said the citizen response showed residents care deeply about conditions in their neighborhoods.
If the police will be more it will have more communication between the neighborhood and the police, so we can feel comfortable to report crime.
Programs that that have been developed, such as the rope program, have been excellent, and I think that we need to enhance that program as well. Also, we need to have more community resources, specifically in the area of drug and alcohol, not just education, but specifically treatment.
I would like to see building inspection be brought in more and require checks of houses before they're re-rented, because one problem that we have in the neighborhood is the same trashy houses get re-rented every couple of months.
There's not enough things for the kids. When I was growing up, there was always something for the kids. There was always something for us kids to do, and now there's not. And how do you think the gangs are getting together? It's because the kids have nothing to do.
We've got a lot of things going that are really great right now. Safe and Sound is a great program. My concern about it is that it's going to be a passing fad.
We have over 10 or 11,000 young kids that just turned 19 in a neighborhood. Where are they going to go? What are we as parents going to go? What are we willing to do? What are we willing to commit for the future of this community and the people of this neighborhood?
Nearly 1,000 people turned out for the 6 hearings. Written comments were also received. In addition, local radio stations dedicated a portion of their talk shows to the topic of reducing crime in Milwaukee. Here's a sampling.
The primary, I guess, lawbreakers out there are the people who get together in these gangs and go around, dealing drugs. It's like organized crime. And we have to get rid of that if we're going to have any reduction in crime in the city of Milwaukee.
I just had 2 suggestions. One, that
they really, really have a firm curfew, because that would help the younger children understand that they're not supposed to be out on the streets after dark or after whatever time they have. The other issue is that there ought to be some parental responsibility ordinances and fine the parents when they catch these kids out on the streets after a certain time.
This whole thing should include learning to respect each other and teaching these young people and older people that, to respect each other's property as well as each other.
What I would suggest, one is that they would provide at all drug houses, once they verify or buy that it is a drug house, that it be closed down within 24, 48, or 72 hours, depending on how fast they can close it down. One of the problems is the proliferation of drug houses, that as long as they sit in that community, they start to become centers of crime, and they must close them down as fast as they open up.
What I wanted to make sure that we are not remiss in forgetting, not just recreation for youth, but actually having someone who can find out what the needs of youth are in today's community.
Milwaukee learned firsthand about how a big city achieves dramatic reductions in murders and other major crimes when 3 anti-crime leaders from Boston paid a visit.
In Boston, they've had some success, particularly with juvenile crime, which has been so impressive that we just had to find out more about it. You know, everybody's proud of things that they're trying to do here, but we're not too proud to learn from another city.
The Boston officials met with residents, clergy, neighborhood and community leaders, and government officials. They share their insights on what works and doesn't work in reducing violent crime. Boston's efforts helped lower homicides in that city by over 70% during the 1990s.
Crime can be reduced. This is a problem that we can solve. Crime has reduced dramatically in Boston, and that's the first message I would leave with you. The second is the idea of collaboration. And the people who need to collaborate are those who are closest to the problem. Probation officers are very close to the problem. Community-based organizations are close to the problem. Churches are close to the problem. The police officers are close to the problem. If these people can sort of move closer together and work shoulder to shoulder in collaboration, then the problem of crime can be solved and lives can be saved.
10 years ago, we could say it was not our fault for what was going on in Boston. Today, it would be our fault if we allowed that violence to return to the city. We've seen dramatic decreases in crime. We've seen increased cooperation between the community and the police department. It's people of goodwill working together. The community is everyone in the community is a stakeholder. What we've been able to do in Boston is find those stewards, those people with the time, energy, and skill that are willing to donate those skills and that energy and time to making Boston a better and a safer and a more livable community.
Prior to the visit by East Coast representatives, Milwaukee Commission members spent 3 days in Boston.
And we too found that the 2 key things that happened in Boston, the actual, more than anything else, was the amount of collaboration and the faith that the various entities that I mentioned had in each other. And they started talking to each other and started listening to each other. And everybody in Boston was dedicated to one thing, and that was reducing crime. Every one of those agencies. And they did.
We have a lot of the same ingredients. We need to focus them properly, work together as a community to make it happen. And one of the things that I'm most focused on is to get people to believe that crime can go down.
The final report from the Mayor's Commission on Crime was released on August 1st. Among its recommendations, greater authority for district police captains, a citywide police unit to focus on reducing violent crime and its causes, development of fair and effective procedures to seize illegally possessed firearms, develop crime prevention curriculum within MPS. As he received the report, Mayor Norquist said work would begin immediately on adopting some of its recommendations.
Commission members came away convinced that we in Milwaukee have the ability to cut violent crime in our community dramatically, and that the benefits that will resound to the community from that are enormous. The power of our citizens, our fine police force, our clergy and community groups, and most of all, our willingness to work together Those are the keys.